The huge Genome Project news this week that scientists have mapped out the human gene sequence is mind-boggling when you think about it. For instance, it could someday lead to the manipulation of our genes so that we could lead disease-free, longer lives. Another area that it certainly raises possibilities for is understanding and treating mental illness, or perhaps just simply knowing why totally normal-appearing people sometimes engage in bizarre behavior, be it mob action or, say, extramarital affairs, even though there's nothing really wrong with their marriage. This last issue gets us to the topic of battling the inner dummy, the craziness of apparently normal people, a book by psychology writer David L. Weiner, who's joining us today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You know, briefly in your book, you do talk about the whole gene apparatus,
Right.
and you put it into common terms so that even I could understand it,
Yeah.
which I appreciate it. But do you believe that someday, in terms of our personality disorders and the many things that even normal people face when they suddenly do something kind of out of character and bizarre, that there could be something in this gene sequence that explains it?
Yeah, I think so. The genome, I mean, not only maps out our physical being. You know, it's like a bunch of barcodes. If I stood up here and held up a 6 feet string of thread, that's our entire genome, composed of 3 billion bits of information. And when we're young, and those cells are divided, and that's in every cell in our body, 60 trillion cells. And when those cells divide, they can divide as little as 2 hours, and little checkers go down to make sure that the transfer is right. And occasionally it goes wrong. So when you grow up, you know, you could be susceptible to manic depression or schizophrenia. I mean, one day you have a propensity toward it. So I mean, if you're
for each person, it's different, though. So obviously there's something slightly different in the coding that must be forwarding this type of reaction in each different person.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the human species, they found no difference between our brain coding and your skin pigmentation or facial characteristics. So these racist idiots, you know, who might be able to get the fact that there are no differences between us basically as humans. But it gives us propensities to certain things. So if you have a propensity towards schizophrenia, for example, and you grow up with a supporting family and a supporting wife and you're in a nice job, nothing will happen. But if somebody dies or something bad happens to you, one day you'll wake up and you'll think you're the emperor of Antarctica. And that's just the way it is.
So environment plays a big part here.
A big part.
Yeah.
The genetics give you the vulnerabilities, and the environment can tip you over.
Well, seeing as it's not the day yet where we're going to be manipulating people's genes to cure them or whatever, what are some of the things that you've come up with in the research that you've done in putting the book together in ways that, for instance, if I'm suddenly finding I'm getting a little irritable at work, you know, I can't stand the news director anymore. He's off on the sidelines listening. I can get away with that. But, I mean, obviously some people go postal and just show up with a gun at the office, but I mean, what is it that you do to stop yourself when you realize this is happening?
Yeah. If you know you have a problem, that's the big thing. I mean, you talk to
Some
many
people,
they have no idea they have a problem, and those are the people that are hardest to work with.
Are you a proponent of drugs or other therapy, like cognitive therapy, mood therapy, other things?
I think drugs are great because, after all, any mental illness is a chemical imbalance in your head, and if a drug can fix that imbalance, I mean, do it, as long as it's coming from a recognized therapist. A psychiatrist is the only person that could prescribe drugs, and also help you at the same time recognize what's the matter with you, and learn how to control this if you can. We have a pound of cerebral cortex. That's the part of the brain that lets you think. Okay. And that's what makes us different from the higher animals.
In other words, use it.
Use it.
You might want to read a book like Battling the Inner Dummy and get some tips on some other options for you. Okay. Dave, thanks for coming out. It's good talking to you.
Thank you.